Thank you for taking time. Thank you for being here at the Westin in Bellevue. If you are watching live online, we are in one of the great cities of the world, Bellevue, Washington. I love this place. Drove around a little bit last night, and man, it is cold. Cold, 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 cold. Hey, and thank you, Chelsea and the Smith family. We live back and forth from Washington and California, LA and Seattle. And thank you for all your prayers. You can only imagine how many Churchome members, Churchome incredible people, were affected by the LA fires. It is one of the wildest experiences I've ever had in my whole life. I woke up, I believe it was January 7th. We had friends started sending us video of a small fire that had just begun, having no idea it would turn into a multiplicity of fires and a devastation that it's hard to describe unless you've been there and seen it. It literally looks like a scene of like an apocalypse movie. You're just like, wait, how could this be? And thank you for your prayers. So many of you have given time, attention, effort. And I just want to thank Matthew Barnett and the Dream Center. I got to tell you guys, the Dream Center and the Barnett family and what they have done for LA is unprecedented. And I do want to publicly thank Convoy of Hope, an amazing partner of ours that was almost on the ground as the fires had just started to rage. Incredible. So thank you. Whether you know it or not, many of you, your donations and your gifts to Churchome have allowed us to give to Convoy of Hope and continue to partner with them to be a source of instant relief and care for those who have been affected. So they're going to rebuild to the best of our ability. I've had friends whose homes were miraculously preserved, but you can imagine now they wake up and go out their back patio and it looks like they're on the set of like a end of the world movie. I mean, it's the most odd thing. So even two of my friends whose homes were completely saved, they're like one of like four. And so now they wake up in the morning and it's this odd phenomenon as well that's very painful. So thank you for your prayers and concerns. By the way, while we're talking right now, it's raining in Los Angeles. So yeah, man. We have never clapped for rain here, but we can clap for rain there. Like, let's never clap for rain here, ever. We have enough of that, you know? Bishop Jakes told me one time that in Africa, rain is a sign of blessing. I'm like, Seattle, we're tired of being so blessed. We're exhausted from these blessings. We are swimming in our blessings. So anyways, thank you for your prayer and concern. Hey, we've been doing a collection of guided prayers and messages on this idea of being closer to God. I recorded 15 guided kind of prayers and experiences on getting closer to God. If you haven't had a chance yet, don't take this, it kind of sounds like a pitch for content, but it's all free. I don't get paid for doing this. It's really because I think if you'll join me for 5, 6, 7 minutes for 15 straight days in the morning, it's real. Like I was really emotional when I recorded it, and I was in this beautiful spot. And so I sound really breathy and emotional, so just get over that part. But I think it'll really encourage you just to realize how near and dear God is. And so we're kind of in the middle of that. We're still doing a Closer to God series. The 20 to 30-minute messages I record in the studio are available. What I'd like to do today is give you kind of I'm taking a passage that's in the series, but I'd like to preach a totally different message on it in relationship to this idea of getting closer to God. Why closer to God? We discovered that the question, how do I get closer to God, or something like that, is one of the most Googled, researched, asked about questions around God in the whole wide world. There is this idea that if there is a God, could I be close to God? There's also this idea that I couldn't be close to God. Why? Well, because you cuss or you smoke or you chew or you go with the girls who do. Like Judah, you're definitely 46. Okay, but you know what I mean? Like our behavior somehow keeps us from being close to God. And so there's this misnomer that preachers or the Dalai Lama or the Pope or, these people are like close to God. And I mean, I have friends still to this day like, hey, can you pray for me? I know you got like a connection with God. So like, if you pray, it'll work out. And by the way, I always am like, yeah, no problem. And I pray and then it works out. They're like, I told you. And I'm like, all right, I'll take that, whatever. But the truth is, you have the same access as I do, and I have the same access as you do, and that God is much closer than we could ever imagine. And he's moved into your neighborhood. He is available to you. And just that realization, I think, can really begin to transform your year, let alone your whole life. So I want to speak to you from the subject, what can't be taken away. That's the title of my message this morning, what can't be taken away. And I want to start by reading the scripture that I'll be using. Now, I used to do this. I've been speaking and preaching for a long, long time, and I used to read the scripture at the very beginning of every presentation and delivery that I gave. Over time, I've kind of, I watch stand-up comedians a lot, and I'm like, I like the element of surprise, and so I've started just telling the story and leaning into a message and kind of easing into it. But some concrete sequentials have reached out to me, and basically I have gotten feedback, and I love feedback, and it's basically like, hey, we love, preaching's great. And so it's just tough to know where you're going, and it's kind of like a little bit frustrating. So this is my gift to all of you who like to know where we're going. So I'm going to try to be as clear as I possibly can. Now, for the random abstracts, this is a lot less sexy and romantic. I must tell you that. Okay, I like intrigue, I like tension, I like to wonder and question and be curious of where the speaker's going. Evidently, most of you don't like that. So I'm going to read the scripture to you, and we are going to talk about what really matters in life. Okay, it's the outset of the new year. It's the first month of 2025. I know even if you're like me and you say you hate goals, you've still thought about them like me. You still thought what could I do a little better or different? Or how could 2025 be better than 2024? And part of me kind of says, any year could be better than 2024. But there's this idea of kind of freshness and newness. And all right, what are some things I want to get better at? I want to talk nicer and be more forgiving and be more generous and be more sensitive and caring and loving, or whatever it might be. So what a great time at the outset of a new year to think about, discuss, and deliberate over the idea of what actually really matters in life. And of course, any kind of trauma, tragedy, or act of nature, a kind of a crisis like the LA fires, it really does make you start to consider, man, if my house was gone, if I had lost all my, what really actually matters in this life? So again, the title is What Can't Be Taken Away, and that leads us to the end of what is Luke chapter 10. I'm going to read from the New Living Translation this morning. It says this, starting in verse 38, as Jesus and the disciples continued on their way to Jerusalem, they came to a certain village where a woman named Martha welcomed him, Jesus, into her home. Her sister Mary sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he taught. Now, if you've listened to me speak or preach at all, you've got to right now be thinking to yourself, there is no way he's preaching from this passage again. That's right, I am, okay? It's the power of communication, redundancy. But this passage has changed my life. There's probably 5 passages that have completely changed my view of God, therefore completely changing my view of myself. And this is one of them, and I could give you context and history and background and backstory and why I think this is kind of a premier hallmark moment in the life and ministry of Jesus, and maybe I'll allude to that more. But yes, we are here again in the story of Mary and Martha. I know. Some of you are like, oh my word, this has to be his 1900th sermon on this passage. It is, okay. But Martha was distracted by the big dinner she was prepping. Chelsea's asked me to make dinners for our family, and I totally failed in that in 2024. I was supposed to be the dinner dad, and I put it on the internet 3 times, and then I just got tired. And so we ordered in. Okay, she came to Jesus. It's true. And we had date night on Friday, which I'll tell you a little bit about, and she finally appealed to me. She's like, do you think you'll ever make dinner again? And I was like, I bring my food from afar. Okay, she came to Jesus and said, Lord, doesn't it seem unfair to you that my sister sits here while I do all the work? Tell her to come and help me. But the Lord said to her, oh, my dear Martha, you are worried and upset over all these details. Now listen closely. This is the end of the whole chapter. A very wild chapter. This is the chapter that houses the Good Samaritan story. How huge is that story to describe Jesus? Interesting. There's only one thing worth being concerned about. By the way, this is the only where in all of the recorded teachings and words and phrases of Jesus, where Jesus essentially bottom lines it all and says there's only one thing that really matters, or you should be good. Mary has discovered it. Now listen to this. And it will not be taken away from her. Alluding to this idea, and I never preached on this part of the story, alluding to this idea that there are some things that can be taken away. Alluding to the reality that perhaps there are some things, bear with me now, that God will even take away. Like your bad attitude, whatever it is. But there are things like that God will say, hey, right? You ever had a job and then lost the job and you're like, did God get me fired? No, but perhaps God has a new chapter for you. Maybe you're starting 2025 and you've lost the job that you quite enjoyed and you're like, God, what is going on? Oh, perhaps God has a whole new season and chapter for you. So there are things that God seems to take away. Now, we could talk about things he doesn't take away, and perhaps we'll be doing that. But he says, hey, listen, Martha, you want me to take this from Mary, but this is one of those things that will not be taken from her. Which leads us to an interesting thought about life. What lasts? What can be taken and what can't be taken? And again, for those who like to know where we're going, I shall tell you. Here's what I'd like us to consider. What in life that we are giving time, attention, effort, passion, zeal, concern, fear, fret, striving, stress, anxiety, what are we giving ourselves to that actually is fleeting or can be taken? And how much of our time, attention is given to things that can never be taken away, right? And perhaps maybe if you were there on those days in LA, you would easily think about this as well, because I don't know if you heard about the great actor Billy Crystal, comedian. He lost his house of 46 years, raised all his kids, had his grandkids there, 46-year-old home. And our culture is silly and fickle because they're like, well, Billy has a lot of money. He can, yeah, but you can't rebuild the same oak tree. You can't rebuild those. It's like that home is taken. What are the things that can't be taken? Because perhaps that will get us on the proper path to discover what really matters in life. Now that brings me to date night. I don't want to brag, but after 25 years, I'm still dating Chelsea. I was expecting a little bit of a cheer, not a problem. No, it's not a problem. Too late now. Yeah. Update on our marriage. Going very, very good. Very, very good. Chelsea and I did have to take a break from sexual activity for 6 weeks. She had an operation, but we're back. So all is well. That's a little bit of the pep in my step this morning. All right, Judah, too much information. It's 10:20 in the morning, and I brought my son. All right, my bad. That one's on me. Except that he watches TV. But anyways, so we go on date night. And I'm not going to lie to you. We did date night, and I knew that it was going to be the first night in 6 weeks we were going to make sweet love. So I was excited, and so we go out to dinner. We kind of just went perusing furniture shops, and I love art and aesthetic and lighting, and so went to a lighting store and whatever, and just getting inspired. And we just have always loved that. Chelsea grew up in a family that sold carpet, a flooring business. So she knows carpets and floors and knows aesthetic very well. So we kind of enjoy that. Sometimes date night, we'll literally just walk around furniture stores, okay? I know, really scintillating stuff. So we decide to go to this grill. And we walk around like 3 or 4 lighting furniture stores. We have a great time discussing, talking. And I was like, hey, let's just walk around this little downtown and see if we can find a place to go. And so we land at this tavern and this grill. And she's like, this kind of looks good. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And I don't want to brag. Neither of us drink right now. Like, that's bragging. But we walk up to the door, and sure enough, there's a guy at the door, and there's a pretty considerable sign that says, you're not going to get in without a photo ID. And I'm like, whoa, that's kind of heavy-handed, all right, And so Chelsea, always has everything on her. I mean, I don't know, if they asked for like a medical kit to get into this grill, she would have one, okay? If they asked for her medical records, she would have them. If they asked for her family's tree and lineage and history, she would have it, okay? Of course, I don't have ID on me. I don't have credit cards, ID. Okay, I'm happy to have my phone in my hand, okay? So I walk up and I look at the sign and I look at the man and I kind of panic. This was Friday night. And I go right to like my go-to, and that is, hey, if I have a photo on my phone of my ID, does that work? And all of a sudden, this incredible, not bouncer, but bouncer, doorman, kind of looked at me, and I looked at him, and I thought, what are we doing? What's going on here? We both paused, look at each other, and I'm like, hey, and we're locking eyes, and I'm feeling his emotion, and I'm like, what's going on here? And he's kind of looking at me, and then he kind of gets a little smirk, and I'm like, he must have read one of my books. I'm kidding. That actually didn't come to mind, especially not the last one. But and I looked at it, and he's like, hey man, and here it was. He goes, hey man, we're kind of looking for kids. And he goes, I guess, and he's like, I think you're good. Like, bro, this whole thing is gray down here, dog. Like, I don't think any of us think there's a problem. Like, if the cops literally raid the place, you will be the poster child for who is allowed to be here, okay? And I didn't appreciate that. He found it incredibly funny, and so did my wife. I mean, she thought it was the funniest thing that the bouncer looked at me and it was almost like a verbal pat on the head, like, oh, buddy, you think you still need ID? Look at you. We sat down, we ordered. I said, I got to go to the bathroom. And I did, kind of. And I just went into the bathroom and just looked in the mirror for a second. And I was like, he's got a point. Life is fleeting. It's fleeting, man. And the truth is, come on, any 46-year-olds, mid-40s, late 40s, you still feel 22 sometimes. And not all the times. Like, my shoulders just hurt. Like, I wake up in the morning, I'm like, I slept on my side again. I can't do that. Everything's off, But in some ways in your mind, you're like, oh, ID. Yeah, I'm definitely going to need my ID. And you're like, oh, buddy, you don't know that, like, it's happened to you. You're so sweet, but like, you're double the age we're looking for. You know what? Scratch that. You're more than double the age we're looking for. But you don't feel that way. You don't think that way. It's not nature to think like, youth is gone for me, or life has passed me by, or I won't have this house forever, or this career isn't the end-all, be-all. My importance or my reputation or my savings account or my checking account, or what people say about me, and if people DM me back when I DM them. Like, the things that we think really matter, and yet nearly all of them are fleeting. The word fleeting, if you look it up in the dictionary, the word fleeting means something that is very short-lived, something that doesn't last long. And man, if you learn anything about whether it's Solomon and his Proverbs, whether it's into the New Testament, life is a vapor. Life is fleeting, not here for a long time. As they say, I'm not here for a long time, I'm here for a good time. I don't know if that's the point. That one's not in Solomon's Proverbs, but life is fleeting. And it's funny all the things we prioritize that are fleeting. It's funny all the mentors and leaders and teachers and coaches who tell us to prioritize what is fleeting. We got to get good grades, you got to get a good job, you got to have a good career, you got to have a good retirement, you got to have a good and I'm not saying that any of that is inherently bad or wrong or off, but it doesn't happen very often when we pause, reflect, ruminate around actually what matters. I put on face cream. I hope to stay fit and young, but that's a losing battle, slugger. You just got laughed at by a doorman at a bar because he literally thinks it's hilarious that you think you need ID. And I was shocked. And that's embarrassing because I shouldn't be shocked because it's happening. That job you've always wanted, even when you get it and you're so happy, you'll be done with it before you know it. I just think it's the coolest thing that Coach Pete Carroll just took over the head coaching job of the Raiders, okay? Like, he's one of the most inspirational. I love him. I don't want to brag, but I did text him, okay? That is a brag. But anyways, I love him. I admire him. 73, 74 years old, taking over a program that needs a whole rebuild. I'm like, who is this man? But you know, Pete Carroll's like the only 74-year-old I know who would take that job. And that's why he's amazing, because we're all like, wait, what? Like, you could just like enjoy all the things you've done, but you want like, but Coach knows. You can't coach even forever, even if you're Pete Carroll. Like, this life is fleeting. Dog years is so painful. Dog years is the new thing that pains me a lot because I want Louie to live forever, my little dog. Like, I want him to live forever. He has become more important to me than my children. I didn't mean that. That just came out of my heart. I didn't mean that. It's not true. Most of the time, that's not true. But like, you know, you can ask Grace, my daughter's here this morning. Like, I mean, we always are like, he's gonna live long, like 13, 14 years. And that's a long time. I asked my therapist, why did dogs die so young? Like, it's agonizing. She's like, oh, so we don't give up on people. Because if they lived forever, we would just be like, I'm good. I got my dog. She's gonna be with me. But we balk at dog years. Dogs die so young. Don't we all? Life is fleeting. So again, what youth can be taken, careers can be taken, reputation can be taken. Companies can be taken. Buildings can be taken. Homes can be taken. It can be taken. Health can be taken. Think of all the things that we spend an inordinate amount of time focusing, obsessing, and worse, worrying, anxious, and yet it's going to be taken. You know, there are some things that just will be taken. It's like a guarantee you can plan on it. Now, we try to delay the taking as long as we can. But what are those things that cannot be taken? Right? That's an awesome exercise. Like, even if you weren't like a Jesus person or a religious person or a Christian person or, you know, a Bible person, and maybe you're watching on the internet and you're like, a friend of me asked to watch this. I'm not a big religious. This probably isn't for me. But hold on, before you change the channel, it's not a channel, Jude. It's the internet. All right. Before you turn this off, or before you tune me out here because somebody tricked you into coming to this event at the Westin in Bellevue and told you it was like a motivational speaker, and then they said they'd pay for lunch afterwards, and you're like, dude, this is a church, dog. You brought me to a church, and that guy's a preacher with an oversized jacket on. Like, what in the world are we at right now? Hold on. It wouldn't be a bad thing, though, for all of us to consider just for a little bit. What are the elements and aspects of life that won't or can't be taken? What are they? What are they? And you know what's interesting? As your brain goes there for a moment, it's not a long list, is it? Like, some of you have been alive long enough now. It's funny, the older you get, the more these are the thoughts you have. This is the beauty of youth. You know, young people don't sit around and be like, I gotta spend more time on what's not fleeting. You know, that's what gray hair people do, like me, okay? You go, what actually matters? But are you like me at the beginning of a year? Do you do a little bit of that, though, where you're just like, what even matters? My middle son, my 18-year-old, he is a bit of a philosopher. He got that from his dad. Just kidding, his mom. He's a deep thinker, and he loves to have these conversations, and he's really bright. It's like, Dad, I mean, honestly, do grades matter? And I'm like, hold on. They do to your mom, so they do. You know, like, I'm kidding. They do to me, too, big time. I've graduated with a 2.6 at Issaquah High School, but they matter. 2.6 easy, by the way. Like, 2.6, not a problem. I'd get a C, and my mom would be like, look at you, buddy. Thanks, Mom. Let's get ice cream. That's a true story, by the way. Some of you are like, come on. No, it's real. But, you know, you're like, no, grades matter, falling through, but what really does matter? And maybe right now you're going, yeah, none of it matters. Okay. You lose everything when you die. Okay. Now, I understand. Hold on a second. If you're there, none of it matters. Okay. Then let this talk be a presentation for your consideration of a few things that do matter. Perhaps I'm a believer in eternity. I'm a believer that we are a forever being, that actually the constructs or the constriction of time is one of the most troubling things to our soul, because the Bible says he put eternity in our hearts. We were never designed for death. We were meant to live forever. So I believe that we are right now in the colony of time, but our allegiance is to the empire of eternity. And I quote Dr. King. Dr. King said the believer lives between the colony of time and the empire of eternity. And there's a tension in their life always. And by the way, if you don't like the idea of being a believer, I will say it makes for a much more fulfilling life when you realize that this is not the end, it's only the beginning of forever. But I believe there are things that matter. Why does it matter to consider what matters? Because when you do what matters and what lasts and what can't be taken, I can only express to you there is a euphoria in your soul that is hard to put into words. It is much like a good workout. It is exhilarating. When I do what really matters, I'm telling you, when I have a moment, and we're going to talk about what really matters, and basically, again, for you concrete sequentials, here's where I'm going. Big spoiler alert. Okay, but we're going to talk in a moment that worship never ages, never gets old, and will never be taken from you. And we'll describe it in a moment. But what happens to me when I do what matters and give myself time and attention to what can't be taken, I feel more alive. I feel more connected. I feel more contented. I feel more fulfilled. And I feel like somehow inside of my guts, my soul says, thank you. Been a little weary down here. But whatever you just did in that room at the Westin in Bellevue, I don't know if it was the sermon, if it was the music, if it was the lyrics on the screen, if it was the scripture he read, but thank you. This is your soul thanking you, because whatever that was, it fed here. And we need more of whatever that was. Now, I have a lot of friends that don't understand the constructs of Christianity and the teachings of Jesus, but they know sometimes when we do things like this, I'll go to their home and we'll talk, and I still have friends that'll be like, Jude, tell us something about, that the God thing. And I start talking, and they're like, yo, I love these vibes, bro. What are these vibes? And what they're describing is suddenly we've walked into the portal of what matters and what's eternal and what's lasting, and their soul is essentially going, thank you. This feels nice. This is better than Instagram. This is way more enjoyable than feasting on Netflix. This is great, whatever this is. Now, it's hard, though, because a lot of the constructs of our life isn't designed this way, so a lot of you, this can be once a week, once a month, once a day, whatever. But when it happens, the only thing I can tell you is your soul, is that little soul inside of you is like, that was great. Can we do more of that? Whatever that was. And I know you don't understand that, but whatever, let's do more of that. And some of you, the reason you come to this is not because you understand all the New Testament and the ways of Jesus, the teaching, or the history of Christianity. And some of you are like, is this Catholic? Is this Christian? Is this Protestant? Is this what? I don't understand what all that means. And why all the wars? And why all the tension? And why all the problems? But all I know is I come to this thing and that the guy Judah talks, and I just feel like, woof, vibes, amazing, better. That's your soul thanking you for spending time on what can't be taken. It's that eternal part of you going, that meant more than other stuff, and I'm grateful. And for those of you who understand the context and the constructs and teachings of Jesus, you understand that you have tapped into this idea that Jesus says, let your kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven, and suddenly you're experiencing the realities of what is eternal in linear time and space. And your insides rejoice at that fact. That's why what I'm giving you right now is more than just a motivational speech. I'm trying to connect your brain, your body, and your soul to what lasts and what is eternal. So that brings us back to our story. And I want to make a few observations and retell it to you a little bit. Interestingly enough, Jesus has just concluded one of the great parables he'll ever tell, if not the greatest parable he will ever tell. It is the parable of the Good Samaritan. It is unimaginable, it is unthinkable, and frankly, it is beyond comprehension given the current state of culture and circumstances in the time and space Jesus is in. He essentially just told the people that hate each other to take care of each other and forgive each other and serve each other and love each other and go out of their way to protect each other. Jews, Samaritans, these hugely racist, prejudiced lines that were in Jesus' day, and he tells this charged parable about the people they hate and taking care of the people. I mean, it's just wild. And Jesus poses a question, and then he says, now go and do likewise. And frankly, you get to the end of the parable, and you're like, I don't know anybody who would care for someone who's hurt them and hated them like that. And of course, the conclusion of the Good Samaritan parable is not that we all try to go be the Good Samaritan. I mean, that'd be great, but you won't be able to. The idea is there's only one truly good Samaritan, and his name is Jesus. And it's what he does for you and me. Though we hate him and despise him and ridicule him, he does for us what we can only imagine. And now, from that story, all of a sudden, we're kind of immediately and very quickly, do you notice this story is not a long story? It's not even a really, really incredibly descriptive story. It's just, oh, by the way, there's some friends of Jesus, Mary and Martha, and they go to the house. I mean, look how quickly we get into Mary sitting at his feet. Verses 38 to 42. It's a very short story, but woo, man, does it tell us a lot about Jesus and a lot about what really matters. So I'm on the plane yesterday, and I'm thinking and I'm praying, and I don't know why, I can write a sermon on a plane 10 times faster than on the ground. It's a true story. You can say what you want, okay? Lo, I am with you always. I don't know. I think high, he is with you always, okay? But, all right, Jude, a bad one. All right, not a problem. So, no reference to THC there. Okay, so, but planes are my thing. I don't know what it is. It's the weirdest thing. I'm 46 now, and I've just embraced it. When I get on a plane, I would love to watch a movie. I would, honestly. I love Delta because they have live sports, and I always turn on the sports, and I'm like, God, I'm just going to watch sports. I'm going to veg out. And thoughts come to me, scriptures come to me, passages come to me. So yesterday I'm on the plane and I'm thinking about this passage, and he's like, I want to take you to a part of the passage you've never really preached on or emphasized before, and it's the very end of the whole story. And I open up my Bible app, but it's on airplane mode, so I only get the King James version. Wah, wah. You know, thou and thee and thou. So it's like watching Romeo and Juliet, ages ago. So some of you are offended by that. It's just a translation. All right, and it's like, thou, what she has chosen, shall not be taketh away from her. And I'm like, whoa, it won't be taken away. And it got me thinking and prepared me for these moments with you. Most of what we do will be taken. It will be taken. It'll be taken. I'm not trying to be bleak, but a lot of people their last days aren't even in their own bed. They're taken to a place where you're extra cared for. So even somebody might take you from your bed. You know what I mean? It starts to get real personal, I remember when my dad passed and seeing all his clothes in the closet, and it's just all right, and mom's like, what do you want? And I'm like, oh man. And now we're going to give dad's clothes away. He doesn't need them. He's gone. And it's just, life is just, right? There's that aspect that's I don't want to think about it, but it affects all of us. But what can't be taken. And listen, I'm a big proponent of like memories can't be taken, but I've had loved ones that memories are starting to be taken. They can't even remember them anymore. I'm a big proponent of let's make a memory. I mean, guys, that is literally one of my mantras. Let's make a memory, all right? Like, I love making memories. Let's go to Disneyland, okay? Disneyland's a little stricter than it used to be, though. Anyways, there's a whole story there. I'm not going to get into it. Okay. You guys distract me too much. Like, I blame it on you. I think that's gaslighting, bro. Like, public gaslighting. Like, all right. It's my fault. It's not yours. But even memories. So just think about it for a moment. It's okay. Like, we're all in this together. Like, truly, well and truly, we're all in this together. But think about what fills our days. Just fills our days. Fills our days. Am I the only one that thinks it's kind of odd that it takes almost a tragedy to give us the okay to go home, to call mom, to be with the kids? Isn't it interesting? We're a fickle, funny culture, aren't we? You know, it's like, hey, man, things are going, oh, bro, don't even come into work. Don't even worry about it. Right, but, and I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying it's just the way our world works. But like, you can't call into your boss and be like, hey, my wife just feels really lonely today. I'm just going to stick with her at home and just stick it out all day and just make sure that she's okay. And yeah, no, buddy, you're going to go ahead and come into work, right? I understand the realities of it, but it is somewhat interesting. Like with these fires, all of a sudden now, hey, don't worry about it. Just focus on your family and your... Why don't we do that when there's not trauma and tragedy? Why don't we get into this mode of spending so much? And are you the only one that wonders, like, is that why sometimes I get to the end of the day and just feel a little unsettled or unsatisfied? Or is that why after a whole week you kind of go, man, are we just ships passing at night? Love you, kids. It's Dad. Good night. Night, Dad. Hey, what are you watching? Fast and the Furious. What's that rated? Whatever. But like, you know what I mean? Like, just life. Got a lot on. Sorry, kids, let me take this call. Right? And again, guys, I do this probably more than you do this. But what really does matter, and maybe if we just move like a foot closer to what matters, maybe if we spend just an extra hour on what matters, that feeling of being alive and connected and true and in love with God and the people in our world, maybe we could experience that more. So let's talk about the story, because the story sheds a lot of light on real life, okay? Because a lot of you, if this scenario happened and Jesus and his actual physical visible form and his quotations were there, you would side with Martha 9.5 times out of 10. Because that's what your teacher, coach, mentor, parents, all the leaders in your life taught you, okay? When there's something to get done, you get up, you help out, and you do your part. That's called the facts of life, right? And every coach, this is why I've done a message before. God is not coach, he's father. Don't get into God the coach. He's not a good coach. He's not a good coach. God's not a good coach. God's not a good coach. Did you know that? He is father. He's not coach. God's never going to be the person in your life. Get up there, get out there, give it your all. Say, well, let's go. That's not even God's vibe. He's a father. He's a father. He's a father. But so much of our life and culture is driven by coaches. And so, here comes our scene. Jesus, it seems, not a big lead time, not a big heads up, shows up at Mary and Martha's house. By the way, other than his own actual family, which we hear so little about, Mary, Martha, and Lazarus are the closest family unit to Jesus in his entire life and ministry. And we get some really intimate scenes with them. This is one of them. Jesus shows up after doing some incredible climactic teaching. He shows up at Mary and Martha's house, and it seems sudden because Martha is not prepared with all the stuff, which I think she would, based on her personality and what we know, firstborn, come on, she would have been prepared. But it seems like Jesus is kind of just like, ta-da! And she's like, okay, all right. stay there, and she's doing what every good American would do. Hosting. Handling the fundamentals. The facts of life, the non-negotiables. You want food on the table, son? You're gonna have to learn how to work hard. You never clean your room. You only play video games, and you're never gonna make money that way. That is not true. If you can get good at video games, you can make more money than all of your family's lineage, by the way. Just food for thought. One of my business partners years ago, he's like, I'm making sure both my sons play a lot of video games. I was like, what'd you say? He's like, that's where the money is. And he was right. Anyway, so his 18-year-old's paid to play. But it's beside the point. In this country, we have taught ourselves the value of hard work. I am not here to not say that's not valuable. Wait, does that work? I am here to not say that's not that. Yeah, I think that works. Okay. It's a lot of knots. So I'm like, did I cancel out the knots with too many knots? Okay. This is not about hard work not being good. This is about elevating something above hard work. That I don't think sometimes gets elevated because we emphasize the facts of life. Hey, get up, make your bed. You ever read that book about making your bed every day? They said Saddam Hussein never made his bed. I've been making my bed ever since reading that book. That's a true story. That's a true story. Somebody gave me, it was a book and it was a little. I was like, I can read this one and tell everybody I read a book. That'll be great. It's the whole reason I started to read it, because I wanted to tell you I read a book, because I don't read a lot. I just have a lot of great conversations. And so I read it and said, I was there when we had Saddam Hussein under watch and he never made his bed. I was like, all right, I am making my bed. Okay, so, but that's it. We make your bed. Eat your Wheaties, drink the milk, whatever. Like, come on and get to work on time and be punctual. And so Martha, she's doing what? Be right there. She's working. And she finally realizes, I don't know what just fell. Where is my little sister? Story of her life, right? Where is my abstract, random, artistic little sister? Her. Oh my goodness. Look at her. Crisscross applesauce. She got her carpet square out in front of Jesus. And I'm in here, oh no. This is called the facts of life. This is called how you make the team. This is called how you pull your weight. This is called real life, kid. Wake up and smell the roses, which is a weird point to throw in roses when you're really letting your kids have it. But anyways, all right, so she comes in. Look how sure Martha is that she knows what matters here. Look at her. She's as sure as you and me and all of our coaches and teachers and mentors and parents and leaders. Jesus, she says, you better tell Crisscross Applesauce to get in here and do what must be done. It's called life. Grow up. Get in here. And the most odd things happen. And if it wasn't Jesus, none of you would agree with this scripture. You would all go, no, I know what Jesus did. He stood up and he said, oh, Mary, look what you've done. Your negligence. Look. Are you happy with this, Mary? Look who's doing all the work. Look who's been doing all the work for years. Mary, do you have a job? No. Painting's not a job. You don't get paid to paint. Oh, I know you wrote a script. That's adorable. But nobody bought it. It's not published. Are you getting paid? No pay? Yeah, no pay, no play. Get in there. Finish the charcuterie. For me. And all of America would say, that's our Jesus. That's my Jesus. We need to learn more hard work in this country. That's what we need. Fair point. Listen, I'm probably your guy. Okay, fair point. Fair point. Like, hard work is a great thing. But I want to show you something about the work mentality and the worship mentality. And I want to draw your attention to something. the work mentality will always find ways to resent the worship mentality. But the worship mentality, ironically, has no problem with the work mentality as it pertains to work has its place. But when work becomes the place, it starts to resent people who seem to have margin and days off, and on Sunday you go to like a ballroom for how long? Bro, are you committed to these stocks and what we're doing? I mean, we got money to make, brother. Like, you're going to go, I'm sorry, how long are you going to be there? Well, it's really good for your what? Good for what, bro? Good for the company we're building, or good for, come on, man. Isn't it funny? Now, again, never in this scenario does Jesus go, Mary's right, and Martha, you need to stop working because work's bad. He never says that. He never puts down Martha's hard work, does he? And what's funny, you know what's funny about Mary? She never says a word in the story. She doesn't even say anything, and she's resented. She has no lines, and she is the source of all of Martha's pain. And I'm not sure Mary even cognizantly had a thought that she was going to ignore cutting the cheese or laying out the lamb. I think she just, it's not like the worship mentality has to put down work to worship. But oftentimes the work mentality has to put down worship to work. Because work is what put food on the table. It might put food on the table, but it does not put food in your soul. And what does it profit a man to gain the whole world, but in the process lose his soul? Work doesn't feed the soul. Worship feeds the soul. The worship mentality does not resent or put down work. It just places work in its place. And worship can be counterintuitive sometimes because the worship mentality can say, work can wait. Because I need to be here. Don't get me started because I'm going to get real pastoral on you, but my money goes in the direction of my worship, not my work. And I haven't told you some of this, but one of the top 3 things that have ever happened to my life that's changed my trajectory of my life is putting my money in the direction of where I want my heart. And so I have given generously to this community, even though ironically my paycheck is from this community. Not all of my income comes from this community. Thank you for buying my books. But the first 10% of my money that ironically comes from some of the money you give, I give back. Tithes, offerings, and alms, because I want my money to know my money submits to worship. My money, we trust God. We don't trust my craft or my talent or my work. My surplus and supernatural supply comes from trusting God that he'll provide all of my needs according to his riches and glory. And I have lived a life for a long, long time that I should not be able to afford and I can't afford, but favor is better than money. I haven't talked like this in a long time, so this must be for somebody because I usually don't talk like this because people don't like me talking about money. But I'm going to tell you something that changed my life. I don't work for money. I work for God, and money works for me. That's the alignment. So don't get caught over here talking about I need to work to make more money. You need to worship and then let your work be an outflow of your worship. So this morning I text some football players that'll be on the television later. That's kind of a humble brag, my apologies. But I was encouraging some of them football players. Now you go use your talent in work to worship him. So let's define worship for a moment because this will help the equation. I think worship, perhaps what worship is, perfect timing, perhaps what worship is the realizing and prioritizing the person of God over everything. I'm going to say it again. Perhaps this is my best definition of worship I could give you this morning. Worship is and happens when you realize, prioritize the person of God over everything. So let me describe how bird watching turns into worship as a point of interest. My dad was a big bird watcher. That's why I use that. Let's say you're going on a walk. You're in the Pacific Northwest, and you got 15 minutes to be in that meeting, and you're trying to get a coffee real quick, because that's what we do here in the Pacific Northwest. We run on coffee. And so you're looking for your cafe. All right, how much time do I have? And you're walking, and you're like, okay, this meeting, and then I got a lunch meeting. What time can I be home? The kids got soccer practice. Okay, and you're just kind of doing the practicals, right? Just life. And all of a sudden, whew, you're like, whoa, that was a blue jay. That was crazy. And the blue jay just and lands right there in that tree next to you, and you're going to walk to the cafe, and you look up, and you're like, that blue jay is actually blue. That bird is blue. Like, I have not thought about how blue the blue jay really is. That is more blue than the sweaters we dye in the clothing company. That is the bluest blue. That matches the blue sky, which I haven't seen in months. But, boy, that is so blue. And, God, you actually have a name for that blue jay. And you know when that blue jay was born and hatched. And you know who that blue jay belongs to and where that blue jay's been. And you guys know a hummingbird can fly like 300 miles without stopping? That's bizarre, isn't it? Somebody just told me that one recently. It's like, what? That is crazy. But all of a sudden, the blue jay gets you thinking about how blue and how God and how true and how much care and how much concern. And you're on your way to a coffee, and suddenly your midday coffee break between meetings turns into God is the God of the blue jay. So he's probably the God of my day. And whoa, he's the God of all the colors. And look at all the green, and look at all the other color. Look at the flower. You're crazy, man. You're wild. And all of a sudden you realize and then decide to prioritize the blue jay maker. And in a matter of, now a lot of people say it's got to be an hour or 2 hours, and you got to go to conferences around the world, and you got to get banners. And I think that's all great. But I'm telling you, between meetings and your coffee break, a blue jay can fly across your sight line, and you can become a worshiper. And all of a sudden, you take the next 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and you know what's crazy? Some of you, my illustration has you doing it right now. You're doing it right now, and you're like, oh, I was thinking about how wild, and I was, and how wild he is, and crazy, and big, and awesome, and creative, and great, and that's worship. And what you'll find is if you prioritize that thought line, and then if you get friends who like to prioritize. Listen, if your friends like birds, talk about birds and use birds if you like music, use music. If you like colors, if you like design, if you like architecture, if you like the ocean, if you like deer, if you like elk, if you like rhinos, if you like giraffes, if you like, come on. Just use it as a launching point to realize and prioritize the person of God over everything. And all of a sudden, worship. And some of you will realize you might be late for stuff. And I'm not promoting being late, but for some of you, the best thing that could happen to your constructed life is to be late for something. And when you get there, realize the whole world hasn't collapsed because you weren't right on time, because you couldn't stop looking at the tulip in Kirkland. And you were like, this is purple. This is crazy. And you care for the flowers that are here today and gone tomorrow, the birds in the air, how much do you care for me? And here's what I tell you. Someday, you won't be the boss. Someday, you won't be as young and sexy and beautiful as you are today. You'll always have a youthful spirit, but someday they'll laugh at you at the ID bouncer bar. And you'll realize you're not who you used to be. They'll take your youth. They'll take your position. They'll take your career. Who's they? I don't know who they are, but you know what I mean. Somebody will break your records. You won't live forever as the basketball champ at your high school from 1977. It's not forever. All these men and women hold trophies in our country as they win the league and they win the whole thing. And they say it's going to live forever. Except if I asked you right now who won the 2010 Super Bowl, you couldn't tell me immediately. Some of you could, and you need to get out more. It don't live forever. Let me tell you what can't be taken. Jesus stands up, and just when you think he's going to agree with the American work mentality, he doesn't put it down. He doesn't say it does not have worth and significance. He simply elevates the worship mentality as the source of life for your soul. And he says, oh, Martha, come here, baby girl. You are so worked up about this. I don't need your hosting. You need my hosting. Mary? She's chosen really the one thing that matters in all of life. And I promise you, I'll never take it from her. Which leads me to a crazy conclusion. Worship never ages. It never fades. It never grows old. Worship only builds. If you're on our app right now, I had a streak of like 32 days, and I forgot a day because Chelsea distracted me. And I had to start my streak over. And I was like, I'm the pastor of the church. I need to call somebody to re-up my streak because that's not fair. I want the biggest streak in the whole church because I have a problem, right? Like, worship doesn't go on streaks. It just keeps building. When you worshiped when you were 7, 8 years old, when you were a little boy or a little girl in that church, it's your life's still building on that. When you realize that beautiful, magnificent aspect of God, it's there, and you're still growing, glory to glory, strength to strength, grace to grace. It's not lost. Every moment with God, every moment of realizing and prioritizing the person of God over everything, it always builds on the next, and you're going to grow, and it's never going to end, and it's never wasted. It's never arbitrary. It's never fading. It's never fleeting. It always remains. And I'm almost done, but I'm going to tell you a little secret I don't tell a lot of people. As you get older, you will be able to draw from that well of worship when you need it most. And I'm not going to lie to you because I'm not the 26 preacher. I'm not 26 years old. Boy, when I was 26 and I was preaching to some of you, and some of you are so crazy, you've been here. I can see the stinettes, even though the lights are so dim, it's hard to see anything in here. But I can see Alan Stinnett. I could see Alan Stinnett. I know Alan Stinnett sitting over there, been watching me since I was a high school basketball player at Issaquah. He's heard me preach at 18 and 16 and 26 and 36, but I'm 46 now, and Alan knows, and I know some trauma's happened in my life, some pain. I've lost friends. I've been misunderstood. They've printed articles saying that I was a bad preacher and I was doing bad stuff. I've been accused of things that I didn't even do. And it hurt. I had a friend tell me this morning, you're the strongest man I've ever known. But I'm going to tell you a little secret. It's not that I'm strong. It's that every moment and minute that I have spent realizing and prioritizing the person of God, it becomes a well that I draw from when I'm in the most pain. And it's always there. It's always there. A reservoir of years of being in moments like this. I wasn't the preacher. It was my dad. It was another preacher that I grew up under. It was in my room at 16, listening to Dr. King's old recordings with tears coming down my face, thinking, I don't know what it is about his words, but it's right. And people are equal before God. But all of those moments of realizing God and his providence and his plan and his beauty and his person, it's piled up. And I gotta tell you, if you have teenagers, you know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about trauma. And that's the well I go to, because I know that well remains. It never fades. All the other wells, like, are you like me? Like, I wonder, where did the money that I had in my bank account go in 2024? Where did it go? I think it went to my 15-year-old daughter, mostly. She has a gift for spending my money. But you return to this well of worship. So I present to you, everything I've said is leading to this one moment. It's my conclusion, and I'm done. And I'm like two minutes ahead of the schedule. You're like, what schedule? What really matters in life? A lot of things probably matter. A lot of dynamics and dimensions of life, you could argue, well, Judah, you hug somebody. A hug matters. I hear you. A word of encouragement, that matters. I hear you. Work matters. You're right, I hear you. A paycheck matters. Food on the table matters. We're here to help people make sure you got enough food and shelter and clothing, and it matters. We got whole ministries that we partner with to ensure that humans have a safe place to call home, a place to be fed. It matters. Don't you misunderstand me. It matters. But what if there was something that mattered the most? That can't nobody take from you. Not even a forceful fire. And what if it was just when you realize and prioritize God the person? What if that could build and build and build and build? I'm done. This can't count against my sermon because this is a new thought that just came to me. But I think when King David was one of the most powerful men in the world, and he had murdered somebody, and all kinds of hell had broken out in his life, I think the little shepherd boy that was still in King David helped see him through. I think David thought back, yeah, but he kept me from the lion and the bear. And I remember what I felt when I was alone in the sheep and it was dark and I was scared, but I was assigned to protect the sheep, and I felt him out there. And I know that now I'm in the palace. He will meet me again. And I can't promise you what you're going to face in 2025, but I hope it's less than what you faced in 24. I do. But perhaps what you need to prioritize is worship. And so, whatever that means for you, if it's 5 minutes or 55 minutes a day, I don't know, man. I'm just asking you to go there when you can, because it'll never be taken from you. This moment and what's happening to your brain and your soul right now, some of you can't explain it on the internet, you can't explain it in this room, but it's like your soul burns a little bit. You're like, I don't know, man, but I feel like warm, I feel loved, I feel like this is right. You are feeding your soul, sir. And your soul is thanking you because you were made for God. This is when you're starting to feel connected. I'm done. You can't. I closed the sermon a long time ago. These are preliminary comments in conclusion. But am I the only one that can hear Mary? If we interviewed Mary, what would she say? Hey, Mary, real quick, the scene's over. We've cut the scene. Why were you just sitting here? Did it ever occur to you to help your big sister? Are you lazy? things you want to ask people that spend a lot of time with Jesus, like, well, spending time with Jesus ain't going to pay the bills and trade these stocks, okay? So, and I think what Mary would say was stuff like this. What? When did you decide to not serve in the kitchen and sit in the living room? I didn't do. Martha, I'm super sorry. You didn't what? It's not that I even made it. I couldn't believe he came to my house. And when he got here, I was so excited. And then when you look at him, like, have you looked at him? Because I've never seen eyes like that. I didn't mean to do that, Martha. Thank you so much for fixing that food. I got it next time. You never have it next time. That's true, too. But Mary, when did you learn to prioritize? I don't know. I wasn't proud. Has he ever smiled at you? Because I don't know, he smiles at me, and I've never seen anyone smile like that. I can't explain it. I don't know. I just was sitting there and I lost track of time. I'm so sorry. I couldn't believe he was in our home. That's all. I'm so sorry, Martha. I'll do better next time. And that's what I dream of. If you ask me, my dream for you is not that you would become some disciplined worshiper who plots and plans everything, but perhaps he would become so real to you and so beautiful to you that someday somebody will compliment you on being such a worshiper, and you'll be the most surprised. Because they'll say, you have been so consistent with God, and you'll be like, what? I wasn't consistent. I was caught up. I never felt this way with anybody, man. I wasn't even, you ever have somebody, how much do you pray? And you ever had this response? I don't time it. I don't know, I don't time it. It wasn't even I got caught up. My son just got to sit courtside at a Laker game because of a friend of ours, and he said he locked eyes with LeBron, he said. I'll check with LeBron. I'm kidding, I don't know LeBron, but you know what's funny? My son never said, Dad, the game was 3 hours, My son didn't come back from courtside with a friend and say, Dad, halftime was long and the show was boring. He never mentioned such things. He didn't remember what time the game started, what time that ended, and what time LeBron stopped looking at him. He was just mesmerized. Hopefully not by the Laker girls, but mesmerized. Perhaps that's how it works with him. Perhaps 2025 could be one of those years for you, where you're just like, you go from Blue Jay to Blue Jay maker to, I've never known anyone like you. And your business partner's like, what is wrong with you? And you're like, a lot less than it used to be. And you can't tell me, church, that won't change your marriage. You can't tell me that won't change you, the mom, or you, the dad. You can't tell me that won't make you a better teacher or a better coach as your heart melts in his presence again and again and again and again, and that childlike wonder is realized in a repetitive way in your life. Oh, the places you'll go, the things you'll see, and the person you'll become. God, I thank you for your presence in this ballroom, because I can feel you here. And I promise you, I would not be still doing this if it wasn't for who you really are. And for the record, we've never seen eyes like your eyes. We've never seen a smile like your smile. And nobody's presence has ever made us feel the way your presence does. The truth is, I don't have enough adjectives, and there's not enough in the world to fully and adequately describe the width, the height, the depth, and the length of your love and your majesty and your essence and your beauty. You are gorgeous, and nothing on earth compares to you. But we are so busy, and we are so distracted, and we are so caught up, and we are so worried about so much stuff. We are, Martha. That is who we are. And you know that's who we are in our nature. Remember, God, we are dust. So help us in our weakness, in our forgetfulness, in our finiteness. We forget about what matters. We forget about what's forever. We forget about what lasts. And we give so much of our time, attention, energy, and thoughts to what is fading. So again, visit us. Meet us like you met Mary in the living room of her home. So come into the living room of our souls. And may 2025 take the shape of a year unlike we've ever had, full of realizing and prioritizing you, the blue jay maker, you, the mountain maker, the star maker, the earth maker. You are here, you are present, you are available, you are ready. And we want more of you. And may all of life pale in comparison to your beauty and your majesty. Bless your people today. Meet your people today. Surround your people today. Heal your people today. Restore your people today. Save marriages and families and relationships. Let sons and daughters pick up the phone and call mom and dad today. And let offenses and hurts and pains be healed and restored. Just these moments in your essence and your presence can do more for our body and more for our brain and more for our soul than all of the experts combined on earth. So work, oh God, in our midst. We sense that you are, in Jesus' name. And for everybody on the internet, everybody in this room that wants to receive your forgiveness and accept that you are King and your leader and director and Savior and deliverer, we say yes. We welcome you and we accept you and we want to follow you and we want to worship you and we want to love you. We admit today we cannot save ourselves. Only you can save us. For you who knew no sin became sin so that we might become the righteousness of God in Christ Jesus. This is our inheritance. This is our portion. This is our gift, and it only comes from you, the perfect one, the once and for all sacrifice, for the sins and errors of our life. Thank you for these moments. Now take music and melody and harmony and lyrics and words and use them as a catapult to more of your essence and more of your beauty and more of your majesty in Jesus' name. And everybody said amen.